Hey there. So, welcome to the first installment of our productivity challenge, our 7-day productivity challenge. And I'm going to be kind of looking over at my notes because I don't want to forget to, forget anything that's real important. And so this is a way that I can, make sure that I cover everything. So again, welcome to the productivity challenge. This is a 7-day challenge, and I'm here to help you 10x your business and boost your productivity and profitability because your your profitability directly affects your bottom line. Okay, so that's why this is so important. And as we talked about, as I kind of introduced the program, we talked about the 7 areas that's going to be covered in the next 7 days. And so the first one, again, today is going to be priorities. And I like to put my little paper up there. So day one, we're talking about priorities, okay? And then tomorrow, we're going to be talking about goals. Okay, so here's a few things that I want to say about priorities, because knowing what has to be done on a daily basis is so crucial to your business. It's so crucial to the movement of the needle in your business. Knowing what has to be done, knowing what has to be done moment by moment, and getting those things done. You feel empowered. You feel, you have clarity. You feel like you're more focused, and so this is just so crucial to help you in your business. And there's really no app or no gadget or no program or anything that's going to help you even get move the needle further if you're not disciplined in these areas that we're going to be discussing, the 7 areas that we're going to be talking about in terms of the 7-day challenge. So your priorities can, this program is going to be designed, I want to make sure I cover this in my notes. This program is going to be designed to really help you to determine what those priorities are, how to get those things done, in the most efficient and practical and simplistic way. Because I'm all about things being simple. We don't need anything complicated in our lives you know, to make it worse. Okay, so that's how this is going to be. So we're gonna, again, I'm going to talk a little bit about what priorities are. Um, okay, so what is a priority, right? First of all, a priority is anything that precedes something else, and it has the right to precede it. Okay, so when you are doing, making your to-do list or determining what things you have to work on a daily basis, you want to make sure that what you put on your priority list, your to-do list, has a right to be there. Okay, I mean that's very, very powerful, and I really don't want you to miss that. It has to have a right to be there. And so when you put these things on your to-do list, you're saying that it has a right to be there, and this is what I am going to do in order to take care of it because it takes precedence over anything else today. Okay, so I wanted to say that. This is important too because if we don't take the time to know what our priorities are, then something or somebody else will. That means even if it's a relationship, and I'm not suggesting dump everybody or anything like that. That's not where I'm going with that. But sometimes people have a way, as innocent as they may be, in contacting you or whatever it is. People and things have a way of bombarding you. People have a way of making their things urgent or a priority, and you have to be disciplined enough and determined enough to make sure that you are focused on the things that you have decided needs to be or needs to take precedence over something else. So here's what I mean when I talk about relationships. You know, uh, now obviously, if you have children or spouse or whatever, I'm not talking about things like that. I'm talking about things that sometimes you have to shut the door on certain things. Sometimes you have to, um, for lack of better words, you got to kind of block it out or block that person out. Kind of like what you do on Facebook when somebody annoys you, or on Periscope when somebody annoys you. But and they don't mean to, okay? But sometimes people have a way of disrupting your flow, and you have to decide, okay, this is a priority, and I am going to be focused on this today. So you have to turn off your phones, you have to turn off your notifications, you have to turn off all of these things so that you can focus on the things that you said takes precedence or has a right to precede something else. Okay? The other thing I want to say is sometimes there are good things that may be interrupting you. Things like, you know, things like church stuff, okay? Um, and trust me, I am not saying anything bad about church because I love the Lord and I've been on staff at my church and all that kind of stuff. So that's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is there are times when good things may present itself, right? It may be something that's good to do. It may be something that's, not necessarily a bad thing, but maybe you don't need to do that right now. Or maybe that's a disruption in terms of where God is trying to take you. And so you have to really, really be focused and clear on what your priorities are. So, and sometimes these things, these interruptions and distractions, I guess that's the bottom line is this. Sometimes these disruptions and distractions will pop up in relationships that's important to you, in things that's good that that's in your life. Maybe you don't need to go to this meeting today. Maybe you don't need to participate in that event today. There have been a ton of networking events. There's been a ton of conferences and things like that that I really would love to go to. But right now, I'm focused on the priorities that I have said and I have determined that's going to take precedence over some of those other things, okay? And because sometimes they get you distracted. So I probably am beating a dead horse. Okay. All right. So that was one of the things that I wanted to say in my notes. Let me look at what else I wanted to say. Okay. All right. So the other thing I wanted to say about priorities, let me find, I had a couple other notes that I really wanted um, to really get to, a few other points that I wanted to get to in my notes. Okay, yeah. Here's the other thing. I think it's important to know that priorities are different from goals. And a lot of people use that interchangeably, but priorities and goals are not the same. Now, your goals determine your priorities, but goals and priorities are not the same. Basically, what priorities are the aspects in your life or your family's life that together you've decided to focus on. It takes precedence, right? It has a right to precede the other things, while goals are specific targets that support your priorities, okay? And I know we're going to talk about goals and stuff, tomorrow, but I want to make sure that there is, that I've that I've clearly communicated the distinction between goals and priorities, because, like I said, we're going to talk about that tomorrow. Okay, so um, here's the other thing, a few other things about priorities. When you're examining your priorities and trying to determine whether or not this is something that needs to be on your to-do list, because what we're going to be talking about is how you determine what your priorities are, right? And those are the things, and we'll get to that in a little bit, but those are the things that's going to get on your to-do list, okay? Because we don't want to put things on a to-do list just for the sake of putting it on your to-do list. We want to put things that's priority. So when you're examining your priorities, there's a few questions that you really need to ask yourself. And a few questions are, am I doing what really matters the most? And I know you've heard that before. It's not this is not something new or anything like that. But is what I'm doing today, is the item or the things that I'm putting on this list, is this something that really matters? Okay, or am I just putting this on my to-do list so I can have something checked off of my list, right? That's basically what I'm saying. Another question is, how does this particular activity fit into, okay, this hair right here is just kind of really, okay. Okay, how does this particular activity fit into my goals, right? So if I am, for example, if I've decided that every day, Monday through Friday, doing periscopes for my fellow entrepreneurs on the topics of productivity and organizing, things like that, those things are important to me because I really want to empower people to be more productive. So that's going to be on my list. So doing a periscope as an activity is something that fits into my goals, right? Okay. So that's the point that I'm trying to drive home here. Okay. So is this fulfilling? I can tell you what I do for a living is really fulfilling to me. So the things that's going to be on your list, that's going to be as a result of the goals that you have determined. Are these things fulfilling? Am I doing what I was designed to do? Am I doing what I was called to do? Am I doing what I was created to do here on this earth? These are the questions that's going to help you to determine what your priorities are. And I really just cannot stress that, enough. Okay, so hopefully, this is really, kind of driving home for you. Uh, let's see. All right, that was okay. So the last part about priorities. So we talked about what they are, how to define them in terms of getting these on your to-do list and things like that. The last thing I wanted to really talk about was there are several ways to prioritize your tasks. Okay, so I'm only going to share like about 3 because I don't want this, again, I want this to be simple and I want this to really help you and not be cumbersome or overwhelming or anything like that. So there's several ways to prioritize your tasks, okay? The most common way that people do that is by a due date, okay? A due date. A lot of us determine whether or not this is a priority, whether or not this is something that's going to be our list. We determine that by the due date. You put it on your to-do list because it's due, immediately, or it may be taking precedence over something else because the due date is coming. Okay, so that's one way. The other way that people determine priorities is by heaviness or weight. Okay, and what I mean by that is if it's a task or something that's weighing heavy on your mind, then sometimes that may be something that is taking precedence over something else. Because if it's something that's weighing heavy, on your mind, and it's something that needs to get done, and things like that, then you may want to put that on your to-do list as well. Okay. Um, I was trying to think of a really good example, but I can't think of anything right now. But I think you get the point. If it's something that weighs heavy on your mind, then you can actually determine whether or not that's a to-do. Well, here's one. Here's something I just thought of. And it may not be something in terms of your to-do list, but it may be something that should take priority, in your life. Maybe you're rebuilding or you're building your relationships, okay? And perhaps maybe it's a family member or something, that you're trying to build a relationship with. Because I know I talked about a few minutes ago about, building relationships. Or I talked about relationships that can be a distraction. But on the flip side of that, maybe you are in the process of building a relationship with someone, or maybe you have determined that something else is a distraction, and you need to work on this, and this is weighing heavy on your mind. Maybe you need to spend more time with your family. Maybe you need to spend more time with your husband or your wife or whatever. And so this is weighing heavy on your mind, and so that needs to be a priority. So I think you get the point about that. Okay. So another way to prioritize, so we talked about, number one, we talked about the due date. Number two, we talked about the heaviness or the weight. Number three, a lot of times people determine what is a priority based on the duration of the task, or the project rather. And we'll touch on this a little bit, the difference between a task and a project. But for the sake of time, because this is starting to get a little bit long, and I don't want it to be more than 20 minutes. So, but this is another way to determine a priority, okay, by the duration. How long is it going to take me to do this thing? And so, so I want to get a little bit into that, because that's a good segue for what I wanted to say about projects and tasks. Because a project, you want to make sure when you do your to-do list and determine your priorities, a project is always going to be or take longer than a task. Your tasks are going to support the project. So when you are doing your priority list, when you're doing your to-do list, you want to make sure that you've designated those two items, whether it's a project or whether it's a task, in the right, category, if you will. So you may have a project to, build a website. That is not an item that should be on your to-do list, because you're not going to be able to cross that off by, one task. Okay, there are tasks that's going to be associated with completing that project. So that may be, doing some research, that may be finding a domain name, that may be finding some images, things like that. So you want to make sure that when you're doing your to-do list, that you are distinguishing the difference between the projects and the tasks. Okay, so, all right, so I think that hopefully, that is going to help you. Now I want to help you to apply this to your everyday life, okay? So what I do to make sure that, and I think I shared this on another Periscope, but one of the things that I do is I make sure that my to-do list has only 3 items. Only 3 items a day. That's number one. The other thing is I make sure I check my to-do list, or I create my to-do list the night before. That's number 2. And so if you do just those 2 things with your to-do list, only put 3 items, and then number 2, you want to, okay, this is just, okay, sorry about that. uh, 3 items in a day, 3 items per day. So the items that you're going to have on your to-do list is going to be something that they're going to be tasks that you can complete quickly and that you can check off of your list. Now, those tasks, these 3 tasks, could be something that's associated with a project. But remember what we said about priorities. It has to be something that, a goal that you have, set for yourself, and that's how you determine what your priorities are, right? So your to-do list is going to reflect that. So your tasks are going to be things that you can get done that day. Now, by the end of the week, if you have 3 tasks per day and you do this 5 times, you have done 15 things. You have completed 15 things on your to-do list. And so when you do that, you will really have ramped up your productivity and 10x your business, because depending on what these items are related to, you will definitely want to make sure that that the items that's on your list are things that, number one, you can get done quickly. Number two, you want to make sure that you do that the night before so that you have clarity on the next day and you're not trying to think of, what it is you have to do. There's nothing like waking up and thinking about, okay, so they just turned the lights out, really? Okay. So there's nothing like, waking up the next day and, sorry about that, I don't know what happened. There's nothing like waking up the next day, that kind of distracted me. Nothing like waking up the next day and knowing what it is you have to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to also include another video that helps you with your to-do list based on the priorities that you set, and it's only a few minutes, but it's using what's called the ABC method. And you can, do it any way that you want to, but this will also be included just so that you have a practical application. The other thing I'm also going to include is a document that you can use, and you can print it off or what have you, so that you can have a way of just, writing these things down and things like that, writing or creating your to-do list, okay? So I've gone like almost 23 minutes, and this is, probably too long, but I hope this is helping you. Make sure you give, any questions, I don't care what they are, about productivity, organizing, or what have you. Make sure that you ask questions. Make sure that if this was, confusing, or if this was, helpful or whatever, make sure that you let me know, okay? I mean, I really, really sincerely want to help you. So I'm going to pop off now and go ahead and get the other video in here as well in the group. This is all going to be in the group, and so that you can really, okay, let there be light, yay! And so that's pretty much what I wanted to say about productivity. If you have any questions, make sure you ask me in the group, and share your ideas and all that kind of stuff. All right? Okay. Listen, I'm gonna pop off, and I'll also include the other video, the document, and all that stuff that you're gonna need in order to get through this productivity challenge. All right. All right. I'll see you in the next one. Have a good one. Bye.